Good morning, my name is Prince Akim. This is Jare to Jare. On this week's episode, the Jareds will discuss at the MAPS conference in Denver why humans love history, psychedelics, exorcisms, and much, much more. Well, let's get to it, boys.
Tell me about the MAPS conference. How was it?
Yeah, it was sick. It was. Oh yeah, man, it was fucking crazy,
Oh,
bro.
yeah, dude.
Yeah, it was cool. It was really cool. So yeah, I set up. I was there for 3 days, and had my little booth there, and it was sick, dude. It's always fun, like doing these events. You like become friends with like your neighbors who are also vending. There's almost like a camaraderie sort of thing. Because
Right.
you're just sort of like doing the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and it was cool. They had this whole area called Deep Space, which was like their almost like it had like a festival vibe. Like you go in and it's all like neon lights and dark lighting and paintings up on the wall and like paintings by these like really, really famous painters in that world, like Allison Gray, people like that. And like
Wow.
yeah, and it was sick because it's all like people's work that I've seen, pictures of online, but never saw in person. And seeing it in
Right.
person, it's just like another level.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Um, so it was sick, dude. It was awesome.
That sounds great.
Yeah,
Lots of people.
yeah, there was like 11,000 people there.
Dang.
Yeah, yeah, it was nuts. And then yeah, it was crazy too. Just like had so many cool conversations with people. Like I met this guy who was an Iraq war veteran, and he was over there in 2003, and he had crazy stories and like severe PTSD for the past 20 years. And 2 months ago he did DMT and I think MDMA, like in a therapeutic setting,
Okay.
and he was just like raving about it. He was like, this is incredible. He's like, I've had PTSD, like severe. He's like, I couldn't go into public spaces for the past 20 years. And
Right.
then I had these experiences with these substances. And he goes, and there's a lot of people there. Like I said, 11,000 people, and he's just like hanging out, like sitting next to me chatting. And
Right.
he's like, this is the first time in 20 years I've like felt okay.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, holy shit, I mean that's really powerful.
Dang. That's crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's serious breakthroughs with that. They were talking about that at we met with one of the governors from one of the tribes here because we're gonna start documenting their veterans,
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
these veterans, and
So sick.
they're going to do a conference. At the conference they're talking a lot about that too, like
Yeah.
basically what some people are considering like a cure to post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah.
um on a personal level though, I feel that, because we dabble in some mushrooms, we both have whatever it may be, some psychedelics, but I think there was like small changes perhaps
Yeah.
that didn't last that long, like perspective for sure. And
Right.
then like a few days of like mental clarity and good, even when I like tried microdosing.
Yeah.
But it wasn't necessarily like a cure all. However, I heard that some people say you need to take like the God dose, which is like an exorbitant amount of mushrooms or whatever to get that peace of mind.
Right.
But in my 20s, I definitely took numerous God doses, but maybe that's what helped me to become a doctor and go to school and shit. You never know.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like who
So,
knows what your life would have been without that, worse or better. Who knows, right?
right.
But I think so much is okay, the dose matters, and then there's also um like set and setting is what they refer to it as, like mindset and setting, which is just essentially the environment you're doing it in and the intention that you have going into it. So if I'm at a party and everyone's drinking and then I'm just like tripping really hard in the corner, not a great environment, and I'm probably, maybe I'll
Right.
have a
Right.
lot of fun or something, but I'm not gonna really figure out my personal stuff,
Yeah.
But then if I go into a therapeutic setting, being guided by someone who's like understands this stuff and has a lot of wisdom around this, and they're talking me through it, and I'm going in like very intentionally, working with like, for this veterans example, like PTSD, then like that's just a much, much different experience, So
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
yeah,
Intent too.
yeah.
Going in, what are you going to accomplish for sure? Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, have you played with that at all? Like when you talk about like those moments that you have, had some clarity for a couple of weeks after or whatever. Was it going in and just sort of like hanging out, having fun, or was there like that sort of intention behind it? What was your experience?
The funny, in my 20s, for sure, having fun, whatever, just with
Yeah.
friends. But later on, I don't really think it's that even that fun. It's tiring. So I think that
Yeah.
I think every time I've done it is with intention later on in life, with
Yeah.
like I was setting like a great setting, either out in the woods or, with good
Right, right.
people or at my house or whatever. And was also at a time in my life, back to life threads, that I was at a steady thread and also needed to like relieve myself from traveling the thread of the past, if that makes any sense.
It makes complete sense. I like
Whether
how you
that
put that
be
too.
like a distant past or a more near one.
Yeah.
Regardless, I think that, yeah, I like, for instance, I think one of the last times is when I watched Lawrence of Arabia at my house, and I was trying to get through comprehensive exams and
Yeah.
doing the last scholar and everything. And like, I was at a mode where it was funny. I think it was like a year or two ago, but it was just like a boring year. There's this like here in Santa Fe retired land.
Yeah.
And I needed like a spark of like creativity, inspiration. And watching that movie alone on the computer with my headset on, just like nicotine gums, it was freaking really cool and like got me to find some inspiration to link out those essays when I had to do them a few weeks later. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but I think that I've definitely had some bad experiences for sure with
Yeah.
psychedelics. Saw a demon coyote one time freaking in my yard. I was so scared. Uh One time I was just like laying, I think it was that same night, laying down, I could just like hear like water dripping in my head. It was the most worst. It was like Chinese torture.
Yeah.
And then had to like teach myself how to talk again in the morning. I'm telling you, if you don't respect them or do it in the right frame of mind or setting, they can be bad. They can be bad. I think you had a
Yeah.
few too, right?
Hell yeah. And I'm gonna follow okay, so Genesis P.O.R.H., this artist I'm like kind of obsessed with. I'm gonna do a Becoming Human episode on them. But
Nice.
they have a quote and they go, the only good trip is a bad trip. Um which is kind of funny. And this person's like a complete maniac when it comes to just creativity and everything else. So it makes sense that they would say this. But the only good trip is a bad trip. So in other words, the bad trip is the one where you get the most information about who you are and what you need. That's when all of your
Okay.
inner boogeymen come up, is during the bad ones. And um I wouldn't go to that extent that the only good one is a bad one. I think the good ones are also very, very uh I've certainly had a lot of like opening experiences with those.
Right.
Um but yeah, I mean I've had a couple bad ones, one very bad one that actually did lead to quite a bit of chaos in my real life, is how I'm understanding it. I mean, my life was pretty tame, and then had this devastating scary trip that just,
Right.
it felt like I invited a demon into my life, and all that
Right.
sort of stuff. And then everything fell apart after that, it
Mm,
felt like.
yeah.
And but that's okay, because at the time it was scary and hard and difficult and all that. But in retrospect, it's like oh, maybe I was clearing out, maybe I was dusting out the soul, kind of whatever sort of icky internal stuff I was holding on to. It was time to like rid myself of that, purge myself of that. And it was through these difficult life experiences that that purging process happened.
Right. And Yellowstone, he has to go do a spirit guide like trip. And they take him out to the forest and they put a like ring around him of just like, decorated Native American tethers by a tree. And he just has to sit there freaking smoking ayahuasca, freaking tripping out for days and days under a buffalo hide until the spirit guide shows you what you need to be shown.
Right.
But you gotta want it enough first, and you have to go to that place to face all these weird demons. And he's like having flashbacks of war and shit. But essentially facing trauma.
Exactly. And you do have to want it. I mean, I am under the impression that we get what we want in this life. Not always. But you have to want it.
Right,
I mean,
right.
you really, really, whatever it is, whatever the it is. I mean, look at your own life, like, getting a PhD, doctor of literature, all that stuff. It's like it was just desire essentially that led you down that path, right? This like
Right.
want
Mm-hmm.
to do that. If you didn't want it, you wouldn't have done it.
Right, right.
And same thing with like healing and stuff like that, because there's plenty of people, the vast majority of us actually, who just sit around in our shit, in our garbage, in our trauma, in our sadness, and our all of that, and we just sit with it for our entire lives, rather than saying, hey, maybe there's something I can do about this.
Right, right.
Yeah, and that's not like a judgment thing.
And sometimes you
Everyone has their
need
own thing.
something like a psychedelic to literally force you to go to that place.
Yeah, force you to see what you've been.
I will say though, I have had like extreme, like a few examples of extreme like euphoria and peace.
Oh yeah.
Like one time, me and my friend Paul, we watched all three Lord of the Rings and really dosed up on like mushy tea. And and afterwards we went outside to smoke a cig, and I remember just like staring at the sky and like teary-eyed, and looked at my friend, and he was like pretty hardcore dude. He's like crying.
Yeah.
He looks at me, he's like, I know, man. I know, dude. And I was just like,
yeah.
And like the next day, I remember meeting my parents at like an account to clean or something like that. And I was just like so happy. I was like telling my dad, just like, man, I really get what you guys are like talking about, peace on earth with your religion and stuff. That would just be, all from Lord of the Rings, and that feeling felt like stayed with me for a while, for I wouldn't say forever for sure, but like, have you ever seen Office Space, the movie?
Yeah, I love that movie.
When he gets like hypnotized, it changes him, but not forever per se. He's like, I don't know, maybe the hypnotism's what he says it in the movie has worn off at this point, but we still got to do something.
Yeah.
Yet it's always there with him. He doesn't
exactly
return to the cubicle.
It just becomes another construction. It becomes another drop in the ocean of who you are, right? I mean, it's like I think that sometimes we talking about like trauma, epigenetics, all that sort of stuff. I think sometimes we put too much focus on the bad stuff and forget that the same exact process is happening with the beautiful stuff, where it's in the same way that maybe your body's hanging on to whatever that shit that happened when you're 7, whatever, it doesn't matter. Your body's also, holding and remembering that immensely beautiful experience you had with this person, with that person, falling in love for the first time, whatever, just all of that stuff, having a deep spiritual experience where you're looking at the stars and just feeling the vastness and peace of everything. Your body is also containing that.
Right. And same exact concept. Sometimes we get so caught up in depression and anxiety, we need something like a psychedelic to make us acknowledge peace and happiness.
Exactly. Yeah, because it's the whole spectrum of things. You open up to all of it: the peace, the happiness, the degradation, the fear.
Yeah.
You're the entire entity,
Right.
not just
Right.
one or the other.
Exactly. Did
Yeah,
you do good economically over there? Did you make some cash? Did
I
you at
did.
least cover the booth fee?
Yes, yeah. So it's
Love
cool
that.
because all right, so the first day. I made like $200 the first day, and I was just like, "Oh shit!" Like I'm fucked. Like I got scared. I was just like, "Oh no, this
That's
isn't
still
looking
pretty
good."
good. That's
Yeah, it
pretty
wasn't
good.
bad. It wasn't
Yeah.
bad, but I
Yeah.
was like kind of nervous. I was like, "Uh-oh, that's like I'm not on pace to get the booth fee, right?" But then I was like, "You know what? Stay open. Anything could happen. Who knows?" Um, Next day did a bit better, and then the last day, maybe people just were like, "Oh, cool, it's the last day. Let me like do my shopping before I leave,"
Right.
that sort of thing. Killed it, dude. So then,
Nice.
yeah, in sales, I made like what did I make like 2,300 or so in
Nice,
sales.
dude. I fucking love that.
Yeah, so then in profit, I made like a little over 1,600 in profit,
Sure. Sure.
which was like
That's
awesome.
great.
I was
That's
like,
fucking great. Wow.
yeah, yeah. Oh man,
Success. You take
it was a
risks
success.
and boom. It was a fun 3 days. Did Ash go hang out for a while?
Yeah, she did. It was cool because she had work all day. Well, it was fun, man. Like Denver's sick, dude. I love Denver because she would
Yeah.
drop me off at the train in the morning. I would take the train in like 20 minutes. And it's so nice, like being from New York originally, like it's just crowded. Like the train in New York's like $30 round trip. It's fucking crazy
Right.
if you're going from Long Island. Going from the suburbs in Denver to like downtown Denver, it's $3.
Nice. Yeah.
And then no one checks the ticket anyway, so you just get on for free.
Right.
And it's like it's clean. You're like riding the train, looking out at the mountains. It's so
Right. Right.
and
Right.
then you get to downtown Denver, and there's like a little bagel shop. So every day I'd go like get a coffee and a bagel and just kind of hang out,
Yes.
wander around, look at the architecture, and then go
Nice.
set up my booth and like chat with the people there.
Yeah.
It was nice, dude. And then Ash would come after she got off work, she would come because I'd be sitting there for like, 8 hours straight, just like she was like, I gotta take a piss. And
Yeah, you
then
need
she'd
somebody
come
to
in.
relieve you for sure.
For
Yeah.
real. So then she'd come in and then I'd go wander around and check out the art and
Yeah, even just to go wander around too and yeah, clear your mind from selling,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Dude, and she was cool too. Like she did a good job of just like chatting with people and like I feel like she's like a bit warmer than I am, in
Right.
terms of
Right.
just like how we carry ourselves, disposition. She's like
Sure.
the sunnier one.
You cold
So
son of a bitch. No, for sure. That's good.
Yeah.
Bringing like a different energy to the,
Yeah, so then
yeah.
she's just like smiling at people, like, come check out our stuff.
Right,
And I'm
right,
like,
right. Good
you know,
salesmanship there. Love that.
yeah, it was
Dude,
cool. Yeah.
So at the last Spanish market, Dalton, we dressed her up as a magician with a hat and a cape and
No
everything. So,
way. Oh, that's so
yeah,
sick.
and she was bringing mad people into my
Oh,
brother's
I'm
booth,
sure.
my mom's booth, just like, okay, I'm gonna do one trick for you, but then you have to buy one of my uncle's prints.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but
That's funny.
whether they did or did it, she did get a couple people to like get some like pretty expensive stuff from him, some originals.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool.
Bro, and Dalton's got such like she's a Leo sign. She's
Right,
like she's like this like just like talkative, confident little girl. Like I could see that her just
right.
like
The
bringing
lion.
people in. That's cool. The lion, yeah. That's tight.
I was talking a lot about that, the zodiac recently. Interesting. What are you on the Chinese zodiac on the Chinese menu?
Oh, like the year of the whatever and all that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think I'm year of the ram, year of the sheep,
You're
something
the
like that.
ram. Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm a rabbit.
Oh, cool, cool.
I
Oh
think
yeah,
we
that's
talked
right.
about this one time, the luck of the rabbit.
Yeah, because you
Yeah,
always like at the last second
the last
shift into
second,
place
because I
for
was
you.
almost a
Yeah,
dragon by 15 minutes. So, but the later you are, the luckier you are too with the rabbit.
yeah.
So
That's
weird.
interesting.
I don't know if that's proven to be true. I guess so. I guess so. It has, honestly,
Yeah.
it's manifested. It's manifested. We talked about that too. Dude, I got like nostalgic feelings going to Albuquerque this last weekend. Was just like, man, go to Jared's, go walk downtown. That
For real.
that last apartment you had was nice.
Yeah, that spot was cool. East
Yeah,
downtown.
I
Yeah,
like that.
cool spot.
The Don Quixote, do you miss it?
Fuck no.
Oh man, you're there for a while, huh?
Yeah, I was in the Don Q for like well, I did two stints in the Don Q. My first stint was a year, and then I
Right.
went back and lived another 2 years, maybe 3 years, something
Not
like
too bad. Not too bad. I liked your landlord. That dude was nice.
soccer. He was great, Mike.
Reminded me of Dolly's grandpa. So funny.
Yeah, that guy was cool.
Have you been jamming at all?
No, no, not at all. Yeah, no, mostly just, moved in here and then had some visitors come through and stuff, and then did the conference, and now I'm like, no, just settling in. But I feel re-inspired about drawing and art, and seeing that as just like an actual thing I can do full time and all that. So I'm just gonna aim to put all my time and energy into that and just go hard on it,
Right. Do you
or
have
harder.
another something in mind, like like a show or a
No, no, no.
gallery?
Right now, it's well, another good thing from the conference was I met so many people in Denver, like psychedelic people, art people, and got a lot of good leads on like places to
Yeah,
go check out and markets to do. So I have like a list of things to go check out. Um,
nice.
yeah, and then later this week I'm gonna go drive around and like stop in some of those spots and just kind of talk with people. I mean, that's what's cool about it too, is like I feel way more confident just sort of almost like cold calling people, just like showing up somewhere and just being like, hey, can I do art stuff here? Or like, do you guys, or can I get involved in your market or whatever?
Yeah,
Whereas in the past, I think I would have been way more shy about that.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
That's good. And then the scenes they probably got a nice scene there in Denver too.
Bro, there's so many people. We went to the farmers market on Saturday and it was just so many people,
Yeah.
which was cool. It was like nice. It was like a nice vibe, but it's just so much more populated than Albuquerque.
And if you are able to make it work like in Albuquerque for as long as you did,
Yeah.
Denver should be like, way
Yeah.
easier.
Yeah. There's
Um,
a lot of opportunity here for sure.
yeah, even find like an art collective or something like that.
Yeah.
That'd be
Yeah.
cool.
We'll see. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah,
One thing that was funny I want to add about the conference I was just thinking of was just the cross section of people who were there. Because since it is like a psychedelic conference, or I guess MAPS is like multidisciplinary association of psychedelic science. So like they are trying to like make it more sterilized and like legitimate seeming and not just like druggies and stuff like that, so
right.
it is actually kind of corporate, the vibe. You go in, people are wearing suits and like they had this whole section with like startup businesses and stuff like that. um
Nice.
and then you also have like a bunch of fucking hippies running around, it's
Right.
just like a
Right.
weird cross section of people.
Yeah, it's kind of funny to think like the current state of psychedelics
Yeah.
in American culture at this point. Like it's weird to think like Aaron Rodgers and the popularity of Michael, what's his name, who started it all, who like isn't he the person who started the MAPS conference and
Oh no, are you thinking of Michael Pollan?
Michael Pollan, yeah, the
Yeah, he wrote those books. No, the guy who started it, his name's Rick Doblin. He's like the
goblin, yeah,
yeah, fascinating guy too. I mean, he like went to he did a PhD at Harvard in like government policy just so he could like figure out how to change a Schedule 1 drug to something legal, which is So
Crazy.
he like drew out the map of it, I guess, like how to do that, like what that process looks like.
Right.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So I mean, the dude's fucking dedicated. But I was curious. Actually, okay, two things because I also have a story from the conference that relates to something with you, so it's interesting.
Okay.
But before that, like the Rick Doblin thing. Okay, so this guy, like when I was there in the conference, like I was like, wow, this guy like kind of single-handedly built this gigantic fucking thing, you know? And he's like pushing through all this, MDMA for therapeutic uses, helping people in that way, and really like made a name for himself. He's on Joe Rogan, and a lot of
Right.
people know him. He has a level of fame and all that, and I was like, what's his shit? Like what's his background? What's his personal life been that he's built up this, or I guess any kind of like hyper successful famous person. I always kind of think like, what are you compensating for? Like, what do like a lot of hyper successful people have like fucked up relationships with their moms and dads, that sort of thing. And then it turns
Right.
out that their fame and success is just trying to fill the gap that was left there by like lack of family and stuff like that.
I have one question for you back to sort of a theme we're talking about too is
Yeah.
the past episodes is how much of chance do you put into that equation where
Hmm.
there's lots of people who are equally as dedicated and driven, whatever it may be, and talented as a lot of these people, but by chance
Yeah.
they're they're chosen to represent a larger pop cultural thing, whatever. They're rich.
Right.
It's sort of like a roll of the dice who actually gets to have that, because not a lot of people do,
Sure.
in terms of like the ratios of human beings, on the planet, but somebody does. Somebody has to. And not everybody can. So is saying that it may be trauma or whatever, or they're like psychosis will to never give up that made them famous and that's why they're famous, or is it because it was a chance?
Yeah.
However, that whole thing, now that I just said it out loud, there's a wrench thrown in there when it comes to athletes, Aaron Rodgers, because it's not a chance. They're legit like 10 best football players in the world. You know what I mean? Like there's only so many of them. And that's a genetic chance though, right?
Yeah.
Your ability to like process and throw a football, unlike any other, better than most human beings on the planet Earth. Well,
Right.
that's a chance there. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess it's the whole like, I don't know, it's like, what is a human being, right? I mean, it's all of these factors that come together to create the very specific circumstances of your life. Um, Genetics, childhood experience, demographics, race, gender, whatever, all this stuff. And then let's say you and I had the same exact experience. We can both interpret that experience differently then based on our genes and stuff like that. So it's like, yeah, I guess like, I mean, the whole thing's chance, right? I mean, the entire structure of who you are and what you're doing. I mean, the entire thing is chance.
right.
And
Yeah,
then,
circumstance, right?
yeah,
Because I'm sure there were millions of incredible athletes, baseball players, football players, whatever,
right.
never able to play sports, died early, whatever, did something else, had because
Yeah,
kids,
yeah,
whatever the situation may have been, you know, and it's also a lot of that is based on circumstance, or like freaking Donald Trump, for instance.
yeah,
A lot of it's circumstance. His dad was
sure.
rich, came from
Yeah,
privilege, etc., so and chance of Hollywood, whatever. But then that's also not to say that the guy's a madman, and
yeah,
sociopathic freaking, madman, where
yeah,
he's like a genius in some areas and a complete idiot in most other areas. But his ability to crawl up to the presidency, my God, But
Yeah.
it's a freaking combination of all those things, you know. So
Yeah, it's all the factors, and then there's something to be said for will, just that like deep drive where I think you take. I mean, I think there's some people, okay, I'll use like the becoming like a quarterback in the NFL as an example. Like, I'm sure you're right. There are guys who, I don't know, decided like, no, I'm gonna go like start a family or whatever instead, and that's a choice, that's a decision, right? But then you have other guys who are like, I'm gonna do this or I'm gonna fucking die trying. Like actually though, like I'm gonna push myself to that level. And then not everyone's successful. Maybe there are some guys who push themselves to that level and I don't know, and it didn't work out, and I don't know what they're doing now.
I
But
think
I,
I
I think
told you
there's something
this
to be said for will.
example of the herd. I listened to him a lot, and he was talking about how his friends on the PGA tour, and he's went to the golfing range with him, and he is pitching 180-yard pitches right near the cup every single swing, 200 balls.
Yeah.
But the guy never won a major, never even came close. And that just goes to show you how hard it is to be
Right.
and rare to be
Yeah.
have those like athletic skills, that
Right.
separate
Yeah. Or
people
take
from
someone
that.
who's like a prodigy musician, but then is just like
Right.
really bad at marketing or something. Or
Yeah.
in our culture today, or they're just really ugly or whatever,
Right. Or
right?
like,
So,
yeah,
um,
anxiety, whatever. Like, you know,
yeah,
like
whatever.
I feel some of Dion's work should be in, this belongs in a museum,
No,
and
it does. Dion's an
Indiana Jones
incredible
shit.
artist.
But
Yeah.
yeah, and if we were living in ancient Greece or something, Dion would be wearing a toga right now, like just sentenced like 3 people to death and is eating grapes, all happy about it.
Yeah.
But we live in this current time where circumstance, time, setting, you know,
Yeah.
whatever it is, it's yeah,
Yeah. And the
it
chances that you are who you are rather than someone else is insane, right? I mean,
right,
like, okay, how many sperm cells get blasted out, during
right,
a person's conception? Like, I forget the exact number, but what, like 100 million or something? And it's like
yeah,
that one cell out of 100 million became you, right? So it's like,
right,
okay, the chances of you being you is just in that one instance is 1 out of 100 million. And then times that by like every other time your parents had sex and you weren't conceived, and then multiply that by
right.
their parents and their parents and their parents and so on. It's literally impossible that anyone exists.
I was watching Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about that, and he's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
it's not that there's many people that have lived. It's that the people that could have lived, and that exactly what you're saying. Just hundreds of millions of billions, trillions of sperms, whatever the hell it is,
Yeah.
circumstances, whatever. But it's you and us who are here and are experiencing consciousness in life. And that's his point was that's why you should always appreciate life and
Yeah.
live it to the fullest because it's
Yeah.
a freaking virtual impossibility chance roll of the dice that we
Yeah. Yeah.
exist.
Yeah. And then, that your parents even met, it's like, well, I guess a lot of people just live in the same town or something, but like,
Uh, oh yeah, dude, it's just the towns are all small, bro.
yeah.
I met my husband at Sonic, dude, eating chicken nuggets.
Yeah. Like what if like John McHugh, my dad, he's got the story where he when he told me about when he met my mom, he was like his friend from work was like going to a party that night or something, right? And invited my dad, and my dad was like he was like, nah, I'm not really feeling it. I'm nah, like not tonight, and just like need to get some sleep or whatever.
Yeah,
And then just like whatever. So his friend asked him like on his way out, just like called him one more time and it's just like, are you sure? And then my dad was like, ah, fuck it, I guess I could come for like an hour, and then goes and meets my mom that night, right?
Right.
And then,
Chance.
here
Chicken.
we are having this conversation. So,
Right. Decision
you know,
making. Yeah. Yeah. I don't even think I was planned, So
yeah.
freaking cruise baby. Jeez.
A cruise baby, like they were on a cruise.
They were on a cruise. Oopsie daisies. Yeah, but the best one, so by chance they got the best kid,
Yeah,
on accident.
yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
Yeah, or get this one,
Now,
get this one.
oh, go ahead.
This is crazy. So, my friend Gabrielle and her now husband, Rob, they're moving from actually they lived in Santa Fe and they're moving to Idaho, back where her family's from because she's pregnant now, so they're going to, just be closer to the family and all that. So they're this weekend they were passing through Denver, so they stopped over, stayed the night with us. And it was crazy because all right, so Gabrielle was telling us that she like knew she was going to name her child Leonora, right? That was just like this name that she was like all through her 20s. She's like 33 now or 34. All through her 20s, she's like knew deep down she was going to have a daughter one day, wasn't sure when, but just felt connected to the spirit, would like talk to the spirit of her future daughter. Crazy shit.
Weird.
Yeah. So then, and was like the kid's name is Leonora, right? So then she meets her well, actually, she moves to Michigan from New Mexico. She moves to Michigan, spends a year there with some friends, doesn't like Michigan, so then comes back to Santa Fe, gets a job working as a massage therapist at Ojo Caliente, meets this guy, Rob, who ends up being her husband. And Rob does a lot of like uh lucid dreaming kind of stuff, So apparently in these dreams, he'd have this like little girl coming up to him talking with him. And then when he was like, what is your name? He said he couldn't remember specifically, but he goes, it was something like Eleanor. Right. And this was
Weird.
before they met. Right. And then they meet,
No
you
way.
know, in 3 months, she's pregnant and she's like, I'm going to name the child Leonora, I want to do that. And then Rob is
Weird.
like, oh shit. So, what is that? I don't know. So maybe there is destiny, maybe there is fate, maybe there's souls. I don't know.
Right. Or are they full of shit? You never
Or yeah, or they're
know.
making shit up because they're
Yeah.
assholes. I don't.
But you never know though. Listen, this collective unconscious shit,
Oh,
it
it's unreal.
it happens all the time. I'm
Yeah,
sure it happens with you and Ash a lot too.
sure,
Like
sure.
happens with everybody. And like I still have like a weird connection with Dalton's mom. Call me. I'll be like, get a weird thought about her trauma, and then she'll call me.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Or like thinking a happy thought or whatever. It was especially keen when we were together. I think that
Yeah,
all those like weird, signs, connections, those things. I can't necessarily explain it, but I can definitely say that it exists. I would say,
yeah, yeah.
even
And I
with like
remember,
my
like,
brother,
yeah,
I'll call him. He'll be like, "Oh, I just picked up my phone to call you," or whatever, Or
yeah, yeah,
me and him will start talking about some freaking movie or something, laughing, coming up with voices. And literally later that week, the podcast me and him both listened to, guess what the podcast dude's talking about?
yeah,
It's weird. It's like the Truman Show or something.
yeah. No, it's really weird. Like I had this one thing. I dated this girl for like a short little bit in Albuquerque, right? And we made this art piece together. We hung out for like 2 weeks, right? And then she
Right.
moved to LA, and in the time of the 2 weeks, we would hang out and just like work on this art piece together, just like painting, whatever. So she leaves, I'm all upset about it. And then, don't talk to her for like a month. And then this art piece is just like in my closet, right? And I was upset and it kept reminding me of her. So I was just like, fuck this thing. And I ripped it up, right? I rip it
Yeah.
up, throw it out. Like the next morning, she sends me a text and we hadn't talked in, a month, right?
So weird. She
Yeah,
felt
and I was like, what the heck?
ripping the like spiritual rip and the
Yeah, yeah,
but Carl Jung would talk about that we all create these
the web.
vibrations,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And when those vibrations are severed, the other the other person is affected too and is aware of it, you know.
yeah.
And when they're connected, all kinds of weird shit like that happens too, So
Oh, yeah, yeah.
it's I always kind of think, not to be an old romantic, but like the thought of like I was looking at the whole like movie thing, looking at the moon, you were looking at the moon at the same time, that
Right, right.
shit. But I swear to God, how many actual times has that happened?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
like miss somebody and you like feel like sad inside. Maybe it is because they're all hurt in that moment too, and like made you feel that,
yeah,
or vice versa,
yeah.
Uh,
Who knows? Who knows?
there's just not a way to record that necessarily, but there is though when you talk to them later and they're like, if you have still communication, of course, and they
Yeah.
agree. But I don't know, just
And there's a level of like who cares too, right? Like, okay, the universe is weird. Who cares? Like,
right.
because like my thing with Ashley with that is like, so I talked to this astrologer in like April of 2021, right? Fucking paid like $200 to talk to this astrologer.
Yeah.
And he tells me, he goes, okay, June 18th of that year, 2021, he goes, June 18th, you're gonna meet your person, your great romance, whatever. I'm all excited about it. June 18th rolls around. I don't meet anyone, and I'm like, that motherfucker. He told me some other things that were helpful and
That
everything.
motherfucker. Yeah.
But but anyway, so he tells me June 18th,
Okay.
and I'm like, man, that piece of shit. So then a year later, 2022, roll around June 18th, and I'm just like, man, remember that? That was funny. And, of course, don't meet anyone, right? And then 2023, June 18th, rolls by again, fine, no big deal. And then actually it was July 1st. Because I remember I did my first Zen retreat, then cleared out a bunch of stuff, like cried, let go of a ton of stuff. I might have told this story already on Jared to Jared. But anyway, 3 days later, meet Ashley, and then we're hanging out and talking, and I ask her when her birthday is, and she goes June 18th.
No.
Yeah, so I was like, whoa, okay, and here we are, and I'm, we're living together in Denver and everything. And like,
What's this guy's number?
he's probably dead, bro. He was like, he had to have been like 95 years old, and I'm pretty sure he was
1,000 years
on an
old.
oxygen tank. And yeah.
Probably like 800 years old.
Yeah.
He served the king in Scotland. Fucking.
Yeah, for real. His name was Mahadev. Well, his real name was Stephen Levine. He was like an English Jew. And
His
then,
real name was Rick Steves, but yeah, we call him Mahaladen.
yeah, yeah. So funny, dude. These people are hilarious. And then, yeah, so okay, maybe, and then is that a coincidence? Was Mahadev just like got the date correct, but the significance wrong? Like what's with that?
Right.
But either way, who the fuck cares?
How the
Because
fuck did he? Oh man, that's crazy.
yeah, but who
Or
cares?
was
Because
it by
like,
chance?
yeah, and then who, maybe that's real, maybe it's not. But what is real is the fact that I'm hanging out in Denver, living with Ashley, and deepening our relationship and learning things about one another, and that's cool. And that kind of has that
Right.
part, which
Right.
is the real part, has kind of nothing to
Sure.
do with June 18th.
You gave me the creeps on that. That's pretty
Did
crazy.
I?
It's pretty crazy. I think that
It's
was a
pretty
good
good.
call out. That was a good call out. Fucking
Yeah.
on Rick Steves' part, Maharaj Steves.
Maharaj Steves.
Uh,
I like that. I like that. All right,
yeah.
wait, before I forget this one. Okay, back to the
Okay.
conference. So, do you remember the okay, I whatever, it's a podcast. I guess you can probably talk about everything on here, right?
Yeah.
Cut it out if you need to. But anyway, so you gave me one of your friend was selling these like mushroom chocolate bars, right?
Right.
And I actually kept the casing because I thought it was cool. It was like a chocolate bar case with like it said one up, and it was like a melty face of like a Mario toadstool kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
And I thought it was cool because I was like, wow, this is like official, almost as if it's like legal, you know?
Right. Right.
So I have this chocolate bar, you know, and I was using it for a while, and it was good and helpful with meditation and whatever, all that stuff.
Right.
And so at the conference, they had like all these exhibitors, businesses, more corporate size stuff. And I see like a tent with that logo, the like one up
Oh,
mushroom logo. So I was like, oh shit, I know those
nice.
guys. So I go
Yeah.
over and I start chatting with the guy, and I was like, I think I've had your product before. I go, are you guys selling it already? Because it's decriminalized in Denver or in Colorado, but you know it's not legal to sell yet. So I was
Right.
like, yeah, are you guys doing some like black market stuff until it becomes legal or something? And he goes, no, we have a lot of people ripping us off. Their business
Ah,
model is to build the brand, just the brand, do like clothing, make the boxes, get it all prepared so that when it does get legalized, they have the foundation,
okay.
to start their business, right?
Right. Right.
But according to this guy, and I kind of didn't believe him, um,
He's like,
yeah,
no.
yeah, exactly,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. But according to him, like people were like ripping them off and then just like selling it, just doing bootlegged copies of their product, but
Seems like a
selling
lot
it
of
to
work,
them, Yeah, and I was like, I don't know,
especially
man.
some
I
people
feel
in
like
New
you guys
Mexico
are
wouldn't
just
even
selling it.
know. Yeah, just
Yeah, I
like,
was like, I feel like you guys are just selling it and just like trying to stay hush hush about it, which is fine. That's like,
right.
yeah.
Um,
But either way, I thought it was cool just having, come in contact with their product through the Santa Fe black market. And
right, right,
then,
right.
and
It was
then just
really
like
cool.
meeting them is kind of
And
funny.
then seeing him at a corporate event,
Yeah, yeah, it was just kind of kooky.
just like, oh, where'd you get that, Chris? In Santa Fe? No, we don't do that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Oh man, that's funny,
Yeah.
man. But hey, you would think though that a company like that, the Prohibition style, would be making like speakeasy chocolate bars and
Well,
s-
yeah, and
and
yeah, yeah. I assume they
distributing them
are.
to street dealers.
Yeah, yeah.
Because let's face it, people that sell mushrooms, they're like Spicoli. They're
What?
well,
Like Al Capone or something? What do you
no
mean?
Spicoli from freaking High Times at Ridgemont High.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's like we're not dealing with Al Capone here,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
American gangster.
Yeah,
This is like the
yeah,
hippie
Spicoli,
plaza
yeah.
rat that eats like Hormel chili Frito pies downtown Santa Fe.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Nothing to worry about there. So
Yeah. And the one up dude, even to like, I'll give them a plug, like if you go on their website, you can like sign up so that once product is legal and you can just like order it online and shit, you get on their mailing list, and like the day it becomes legal, they just like take your order, which is kind of
nice,
cool. It's like
nice.
they're ready, they're pretty set up for it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, they're gonna make a ton of money once that comes through.
Once we actually have product.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Guys tripping balls staring at you related. It's like, all right, Mr. Rabbit, I gotta go back to work now. Oh, the
That's funny.
chocolates. Um, yeah, yeah. Wild times we live in. I was thinking about the
Oh,
Silo,
we live in the
this
weirdest
show.
times.
Been watching this show called Silo.
Yeah.
It's incredible. But how the state controls, big mass bodies of people. Like I saw something the other day just that, you know, I think actually Aaron Rodgers said it at the Maps. That was just like a lot of these like helpful drugs, essentially. I'm butchering it. They've been
Yeah.
illegal forever. But the drugs that ruin your life have been legal for
Yeah. Yeah.
equally as long. Alcohol, freaking Vicodin, all this crazy
Yeah.
stuff. So controlled state, you know, what we
Yeah.
can have, what we can't have. It's honestly pretty crazy that people can't freaking, get prescribed some freaking mushies for depression. See, but
Yeah.
here's the thing though, worries me a little bit because
Mm.
you gotta respect them, man. You gotta
Yeah.
respect psychedelics. If we have a bunch of 18-year-old kids freaking pounding mushies,
Sure.
shit's gonna go awry, especially like driving around, freaking
Yeah.
1 ton death mobiles we have, so
Yeah. Yeah.
people are dumb enough. Like now, like I love weed, always have. Now that they legalized it, everybody's stupid. Everybody's so slow and dumb. I went to the freaking shoe store the other day, and
Yeah.
two girls are like standing at the register over there. I'm at the register, like right near them, and they're like, another girl that was a manager had to be like, "Are you ready?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "Girls," like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh, hey, didn't see you there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you ready to check out?" Just like, what do you mean? Oh my
Right.
God.
Yeah.
Stop eating edibles at work.
No, exactly. And that, I mean, and that's the thing. It's like anytime a thing is I almost trust like mushroom psychedelics. I almost trusted it more when it was like fully illegal,
Right.
because it's like I mean there is like a power structure, right? There is like and not I'm not saying like a deep state thing. I'm not saying conspiracy theories or something like that, but just like desire for control and power is a very human thing. And I
Right.
think that's embedded within our institutions, right? And
Right.
I don't think that power structure has our best interest at mind.
Yeah.
I think it actually benefits those in power more when we are half asleep, when we're
Right.
zommed out and just sort of like passive consumers, right? I like that's what they want us to be. They want us to be, you know, half dead passive consumers. If we're
Right.
awake, healthy people living in communities and supporting one another, that's not beneficial or profitable for people in power, right?
Right.
So now that the people in power are down with mushrooms, I'm like, oh shit, what profit have they seen in mushrooms?
Right.
You
Well,
know,
likewise with marijuana, it's a twofold thing.
yeah,
I love that there's marijuana stores with like
sure.
regulated, really good weed. You
Yeah,
can't beat that. And you know what it is and flavors and blah blah blah.
yeah,
What I don't like, and I never have, is once it started getting popular, all these shows and stuff, they like mediatized it, and it's
yeah,
like, oh,
exactly.
Jim
Yeah,
Belushi's weed farm, or like
yeah,
taboo tonight on E, smoking
right.
weed, the new
Yeah, even the
DVD.
mushrooms thing, man. Like on Netflix, you have like Gwyneth
Ugh.
Paltrow or some shit like talking about mushrooms, and it's just like lame. It's like not cool
Yeah,
anymore,
I'm freaking ruining it. And even
Yeah,
like
it's like
Aaron Rodgers, guy's a douche. Freaking,
yeah, exactly. It's just this like weird corporate
he's
football
the
player life. It's
worst. Yeah.
strange. It's
He's
like
like voted for Trump, he's like homies with him, and it's like,
yeah,
it's just like weird guy, like I don't know, the worst.
yeah. Yeah, and it's cooler. Like I had this conversation with a lot of people at the conference actually, but one person said to me, they're just like, yeah, man, it's always been the artists holding it down, holding down the psychedelic realm. And they're just like, we like keep doing that. It's like, sure, it's
Right.
getting corporate or whatever, but just keep
Sure.
doing it and kind of.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, same. Just like I don't know. It bothers me now that so many people
yeah.
are like,
But this is America. This is how it works, right? Because it's like take something like okay, any sort of like countercultural movement from hippie to goth, whatever, And I'm just thinking of like predominantly white ones right now. I'm sure that this gets turned in a
sure.
interesting way when you start talking about it with like other communities. But like,
Right.
okay, hippie from everything from hippie up through goth and stuff. When it's first introduced, it's like threatening, it's scary, it's
Right.
like there's new art movements that are uncomfortable. It's music that's uncomfortable for mainstream culture, all that stuff.
Right.
And then eventually it gets subsumed by the larger mainstream culture. and then pushed out for mass consumption because they realize, oh, it's profitable. So you
Right.
have like goth or something. Take goth, right? It's like you have all these like kids wearing black saying they're Satanists, right? And it's like it's scary, it's offensive, it's like Reagan era, everyone's pissed off
Right.
about
Right.
that. And then, you know, fast forward like 6 months, and then you have Hot Topic in the mall, and like all these corporate people are making a bunch of money off it. And then, you know,
Right.
just like scrolling through Instagram looking at like hot goth people or something and wasting their time and energy. And it's just so, you know, that's what happens. And the
Exactly.
same exact thing is happening you know, psychedelic culture, right?
See, I wrote about this in my thesis on Lot 49 for my
Oh,
master's.
great. Very cool.
And there's a scholar, I can't think of his name right now, but he talks about how punk, when punk first started,
Yeah.
it was supposed to be this like anti establishment, you know, anti this, anti that, punch you in the face, black flag, you know, Henry Rollins shit.
Yeah.
He's like, but what it really ultimately did is literally wrote lyrics that explained stereotypes and archetypes,
Oh, interesting.
defining them and explaining them and inculcating them into a large mass group of underground people who were not supposed to become part of the system. So, and so by doing, they were then, just like you're saying, mashed up into freaking redesigned and then pumped out for the masses. And we go from Black Flag, the Ramones and shit to now, you know, Blink 182 charging $1,000 a ticket to go watch
Right, right.
a punk show. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
Machine Gun Kelly, like with his like, you know, hot celebrity wife, like punk.
Right.
Yeah, sure. Look up.
And in some way, maybe that's like kind of okay. I feel like that's always happened, you know. Or I was talking with a friend about this, right? Okay, so um okay, a friend of mine just got a nursing job and works for this like gigantic hospital on Long Island, right? And he's doing the orientation for the first few days.
Yeah.
And he's someone who thinks a lot, and he's like aware of, you know, just like abusive healthcare practices and sort of just like corporate healthcare and private healthcare, and I don't know how that's just like not beneficial for the masses, all that
Yeah.
sort of stuff. And the hospitals as corporate business essentially. So he's in the orientation, and then like the guy who's doing the orientation starts quoting or has a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson, you know,
Yep.
in his presentation. And then, but it was within this presentation that's all about, I don't know, pretty much just sort of like reifying the institution of healthcare and stuff like that. So it's weird that I
Hmm.
think that's just, again, what we do as a culture. We take these sort of like maybe, I don't know, I guess I don't like the word counterculture, but I can't think of another one, but these kind of countercultural figures and then just use them to, you know, propel the mainstream culture forward, you know.
Right. Right.
But I
Well,
mean that was actually a bad example at the hospital one. I don't like that because hospitals are useful. But here's a better one. In Trump's library in
yeah,
New
but
York, in Trump's penthouse, he has a library. No one reads the books. They have like wine parties in there, right?
right.
And they have quotes from William Blake all throughout Trump's library, which is so fucking weird, right? Because
Weird.
it's like those like Donald Trump and William Blake are like antithetical. It's really weird.
The juxtaposition.
Yeah,
But in vain with that with what that scholar was saying, figures like William Blake are partly responsible for creating these types, the
yeah,
future types, you know.
right.
Without William Blake, there wouldn't actually be a Trump because you need somebody to define a Trump first in order for a human being to learn about it, except, you know, to
Yeah.
actually become it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just wild to think.
Wait, and now I'm curious. I want to ask you because, all right, how does that model apply in the same way to um, minority cultures, Black culture, Hispanic culture, LGBTQ culture, or does it shift somehow? You know?
No, it does. I think it absolutely applies. Me and Finney would talk about this a lot, Dr.
Yeah.
Coleman. And usually the harshest enforcers of white systemic racism within institutions like academia are fellow minorities,
Yeah.
because you've had to endure and live through all those stereotypes and obstacles so much. You have so much trauma from all that to get to a point of becoming a R1 university professor, that you're so traumatized that you then inflict that same mindset and trauma onto your students, because it's like, I went through it military style, now it's your turn
Right.
through
Yeah,
it.
it's like a hazing process.
Yeah, so you're actually like the full enforcer sometimes of the systemic racist system,
Right,
and
right,
you don't have to be white, and
right.
trust me, I've dealt with it. Of course, it's not always the case.
Yeah.
And most of my professors who weren't white, they're, not these people, of course, but I dealt with a lot that were, and it's a thing too, even like within business and stuff. Like, my parents have talked about it, like in the Hispanic culture, just like not wanting to see each other succeed, getting all jealous,
Mm,
just like Chicano all hurt, and just
yeah.
like envy, and like it's not, not good. Again, I would see this sort of filling in. But then if you think about it from a macro scale, you want to talk about like music,
Right.
literature, stick with music, right? There's a lot of black artists that they sing pisses Finney off, right? They sing about stereotypical shit. Whites
Yeah.
that furthers white systemic racism and
Mm,
stereotypes of black peoples in America, right?
right.
Big booty, freaking drinking Hennessy, blah blah blah.
Right, right.
Just let's party, party, party. 8 lyrics in the whole song.
Yeah.
And white dudes love freaking building those artists up because it builds up a stereotype. But it's
So,
there's always like the work of arts too, and the outliers, like like Kendrick Lamar,
yeah.
and the Nas and stuff. Really smart, intellectual
Right.
lyrics, saying something, really smartly made music, compositions, etc. So
Yeah.
it's, again, it's not, and there are still punk bands that are against the system, etc.
Sure.
That have survived that. So I wouldn't say it's always true, but like
Yeah.
most theories, there are errors in them, and
Yeah.
they're not 100% true, but it's a basis in order to like, was reading a really good explanation of what it is, just for fun, and like what a theory is,
Oh, interesting.
boring ass freaking English major reading dictionary, freaking, but in any event, it's a basis in order to connect facts to a theoretical, idea, essentially. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like a theory is just one model, or it's almost like a net that's used to like scoop up similar things, just sort of like
Right.
a net or a box just to sort of like organize ideas.
Right. Similar
Yeah.
with the thesis, so
Right. Oh, that's
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess culture always continues to progress, right? I mean, there's always going to be some sort of like underground culture. That's never not going to happen, right? I mean, um, yeah, I mean, like I don't know what it is right now because I'm just not in any kind of underground world, I don't think, you know.
Right.
Um, but I'm sure there's something happening, right? I'm sure there's people who are making really incredible, ahead of our time music, for example, right? Yeah.
Right.
Or you have like the mole people living in the subway systems in New York and Las Vegas and stuff like that. Who
Right.
knows what their culture is? There's like a whole nother thing down there. There's like a
Man,
whole
that's
nother
wild, huh?
language. There's a whole nother, that's
As
a whole
people do
other
call caca.
society. It's like some kind of weird ass like cyberpunk shit going on down
I
there.
know that's some Johnny Mnemonic shit going down there. I heard that they have like also like whole like restaurant areas
Yeah,
with like dudes cooking up rats and shit back there and like stuff
fucking
they
wild.
stole
Yeah,
from the up ground, you know.
culinary arts, dude. Yeah, they have like.
Imagine freaking Gordon going Ramsay.
Gordon
This kitchen is a mess. Put it in the fucking bed.
Like a Bourdain episode, like parts unknown goes into the Las
Here
Vegas
I
sewer.
am at Jupiter's finest cafe in the sewer. He makes his own potato wine.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. I love
Uh-huh.
thinking about that though, just sort of like the edges of human experience, even like
It's
looking
Waterworld,
into
man.
like deep history and stuff where like they keep finding like they keep having to recreate their theories on like on like what people were doing 30,000 years ago because they keep finding more stuff, like they used to
Right.
think it was just the land bridge that people came from Central Asia over the land bridge during the Ice Age and then came into North and South America. But then they started finding artifacts that are older than the land bridge. So
Right.
then they're like, oh shit, no, people have been in North and South America longer than that,
Oh
even,
yeah.
right? So
For
then they had to recreate their theory and say, how did they get here then?
right.
And apparently there was some DNA testing and stuff, and Native American folks in North and South America are of Central Asian descent originally. I mean, this is going back like 30, 40,000 years, but
Right.
uh, came from Central Asia. But now they're thinking like, did they just like take fucking canoes across the Pacific Ocean? Like
Right.
they have no idea. They have no idea how people got here.
What is it about history that makes a person feel like warm, like nostalgia, cozy inside to
I
like
love
about
history.
it?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
yeah, so many we like love it. And there's always like certain time periods I think of too that I'm just like, man, I'm like I'm a little kid inside, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah. It's
like,
like
what
learning
is it
about
about
dinosaurs
that?
when you're a
Like,
kid.
yeah,
Yeah.
just like, but why? Is it because we weren't there? Was it because like the magic of history,
Yeah. Yeah.
lack of a better words, like it's the is it the unknown, but something that was real,
Right. Right.
or or is it some sort of past lives thing, that we
All of the
like
above.
always want to think about, these
Yeah.
certain points in history that make us feel like right inside and like, I don't know.
All of the above. I mean, like, I like history. It gives me a similar feeling, like deep history, not history from, you know, well, a little bit with like 20th century history too, but like looking into like deep history, it gives me the same feeling as like looking out at the stars at night, where
Right,
it's like,
exactly.
holy shit, like that exists. What the hell?
Yeah, there's like a vastness to it. It's almost
Yeah,
sublime. It's
exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, just to think, like, what was it to be human 30,000 years ago, 40,000 years ago? What the hell? Or
apocalyptic.
especially, I love learning about like Native American cities and stuff like that, because it's
Yeah,
like, because the narrative, at least on the East Coast, we were taught in school was just like, yeah, the settlers showed up and there were some nomadic peoples, but they, decided to just
they
go somewhere
exchanged
else,
they exchanged blankets and gave us
Yeah.
land, gave us
Yeah,
their
exactly.
land. They're
Yeah,
really nice.
nice dudes, nice dudes.
We
But then
were
you
really
look
nice
back
to
and it's
them.
like there were fucking cities, dude. Like in Illinois, in southern Illinois, there's a fucking pyramid there,
Right,
which is insane. And apparently this like thriving city that had 50,000 people in it, that's the population of Santa Fe now,
right.
you know?
They're being like the same exact architecture of the pyramids in Egypt in Mexico.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
why? That one like South America.
Oh, you want to hear a fucking freaky one? Speaking of like astrology, past life stuff. Okay, so during this, I mentioned earlier this bad trip that sparked all of this chaos in my life, right? So during this trip, this is fucking unreal. During this trip, I had this vision where I'm fucking laid out on a stone slab, right? And there's this fucking Aztec guy standing over me. Yeah,
Yeah,
fucking,
yeah.
and I'm struggling, right? I'm no. And the guy, and I'm struggling trying to hit him back with my left hand, right? So he grabs my hand and fucking chops it off. In this vision is so scary. And it was the most, oh man, I'm just lying in my bed.
Yeah, that's like biblical right there.
Yeah, so then in this dream vision, whatever, the guy then fucking cuts open my chest and rips my heart out. You know?
Holy crap.
Yeah, and then it's just holding my heart and I'm still alive for a few moments, so
Right,
I'm
right.
screaming. So
Yeah,
in this dream, I'm human sacrificed. I got fucking human sacrificed in this dream. And then that vision passed. I'm like, holy shit. And I mean, that happened to a lot of people in this part of the country, right? I mean, that's
right.
so, and the story's not done yet, but am I picking up on, the land's memory? Is it a past life thing? Is it my own just dream creation that had some kind of symbolic value for what I was going through? I don't know.
Right.
Maybe all of that. So then, okay, it's my last week, I think, last week or two living in New Mexico, living in Albuquerque. My mom comes out to visit and she's like, "What do you want to do? Check some stuff out." And I'm like, "Let's go Chaco Canyon. I've heard that that's a really cool place. A lot of, history there." And when my
Right.
mom comes out to visit, that's become like our thing. We go like check out national parks and stuff like that. It's
Nice.
really fun.
Nice.
And so we go to Chaco Canyon, right? And have you ever been out there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you know how you have to like drive on this dirt road for like fucking 10 miles before you
Yeah.
get there?
Mhm.
So we get on that road and we're like, where is it? How much further is it? And we're like losing service and we're going down this trail. And then I see this like giant mesa just sort of like rising over the horizon. And I go, that's it. Oh shit,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it has a power to it, and you
Oh,
can
it's a
feel
spiritual
it.
place.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
you can feel it. You're like, oh, I get why people were attracted to this spot.
All kinds of alien cave drawings and shit
Yep.
over there in those
Yeah.
parts. It's wild, man. That's
Yeah.
like original civilization,
Oh
Chocolate
yeah.
Canyon.
Yeah. So then we're driving down, Chocolate Canyon, going, and and I'm looking at this mesa as it's getting larger and larger as we get closer, and I start getting like emotional. I feel like I'm gonna cry, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, Mom, we gotta pull over and just kind of like look at this for a while. And I'm feeling like heavy emotions around this thing. And at the top of the mesa, tourists aren't allowed up there anymore, but they have there's a rock with a spiral drawn into it, and it tracks precisely when the summer solstice, the winter solstice, the equinoxes, and a 19-year lunar cycle. It tracks all of that based on like the angle of the sun rays and the moonlight rays. It's
Yeah.
really, really intense.
Right.
So we get there and I'm having all these emotions, and then we go on this tour. We're just kind of hanging out, checking out the ruins, having fun. And then we walk away from the tour to go just sort of explore on our own. And we check out this little spot where it's got like the old kivas and rooms and stuff like that. And I'm leaning over a wall, this old wall of ruins, leaning over, looking into this room, and I get like a sting on my wrist. I was like, oh shit. And I jump back and I see a scorpion.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and I get stung by a scorpion.
No
And
way.
yeah, and my wrist starts turning red and kind of
Right.
swollen, and my hand is getting tingly, and I'm like, Mom, I got stung by a scorpion.
Mom.
So that's pretty much it. The story ends there. But then I was reminded of that trip where I got my left hand
Right.
chopped off,
Uh,
and then
yeah.
I'm at
Yeah.
Chaco Canyon feeling heavy, wow, what the hell is this energy here? And then I got stung by a scorpion on my left wrist, exactly where the guy, would have chopped my hand off.
Are you left-handed?
No, I'm not left-handed,
Okay.
actually.
Okay.
But either way, I don't know. Maybe there's nothing there, maybe it's just like my mind putting together pieces because it's fun, looking for symbolism where
Sure,
there's.
sure, sure.
But
But you
either
never
way,
know, though. You never
you
know.
never know. Either way, it
What's
was
even
weird.
crazier is you had a heart attack like 3 weeks after that. No, just kidding.
And then I looked into the history of Chaco Canyon some more because the tour guides, the history they were telling us was very sunshiny, it was very like it was a big cultural center. People loved it here,
Right, right, right.
which is true. But then actually the one tour guide did mention, she's like, yeah, and we did find evidence of a lot of inequality. We found some burial grounds that were clearly wealthy people. It was
Right.
very healthy, tall bones, um, and the bodies were adorned in jewelry before they were buried. And then there was just fucking like pits where it was like malnourished children were buried.
Right,
Right.
right.
So there was definitely
Apocalypto,
some
man.
kind of inequality. And then I was looking it up later online, and this is apparently a little bit controversial in the archaeological community, but there's at least a few people who found these bones, human bones that have evidence of having been boiled.
Oh
So
wow.
they think that that's evidence of cannibalism.
Right,
Um, so then people left Chaco Canyon around the early 1200s, I think it was. They just suddenly left and no one knows why. And it sounds like it's possible that there was um, a lot of drought and then also just inequality around that, and then crazy shit happening around that. I mean, it was drought, poverty, inequality, cannibalism, maybe human sacrifice.
right,
Crazy shit started to go down. So, there was like hundreds of years where it was just like this thriving cultural center, but then like all civilizations, it rose and fell.
right, right. Crazy.
So
Which means we're up next, All civilizations, they have that. The crazy thing though with Chaco Canyon is it's one of those like immediate mass exodus where they don't know
right.
where they went.
Yeah.
Could have
Yeah.
been a freaking alien abduction. Nobody really knows. And
That's
they
true.
even
Yeah. Who
have
knows?
those tall like dudes with antennas painted on the walls out there.
Yeah.
Freaking a lot of cave freaking archaeologists have said, So of course it's ancient alien shit, but
I
it's
love that
definitely
shit
a
though. It's
theory
so
then.
cool.
Yeah, yeah, definitely a theory. Dude, back to Prometheus. It's so cool. Like
Yeah.
their reasoning to go on that mission is finding those 30,000-year-old cave paintings and like
Right. Right.
canyon paintings and shit,
Yeah. Yeah.
where all the aliens are pointing to that celestial star body.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So cool.
yeah, which could be, could be.
Could be. Could be.
But are you ready for first contact? I think I'm ready. I've been asking myself this my whole life.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I think at this, like, in my personal life, I'm not even talking about like society, what, like, me, just as an individual. I think if I saw some aliens, I think I'd be ready to absorb that. I think I'd have the capacity for that. I'd be like, all right, yeah, like shit's getting weird. Let's introduce some aliens to it. And yeah, it's going to be strange, but I think I have the capacity to accept some aliens into my
Right,
personal
right.
life. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I feel like there was a time where you weren't willing to have some aliens start strolling into
I
Albuquerque.
could see that. Yeah. I'm ready now. I'm ready now. It's time.
I think who's kidding? I've been ready my whole life. Star Trek, Star Wars tattoos on my arm.
Oh, you're right.
Um,
Yeah, yeah. You're gonna be the first person they come to.
hey
They're
man,
not gonna be
I'm
like, "Where's the president?" They're gonna be like, "Where's Jared Valdez?"
I
Like,
was gonna write the Pentagon. I'm a doctor, so just let me know and
oh, it's so
I'll
funny.
be on
Have
the
you seen the
panel.
movie Contact?
I have seen it. It's been a while, but
It's
yeah,
pretty good. I watched it recently. It's pretty good.
it's cool that that's in New Mexico and like
Yes.
all
Yeah.
the news scenes are like
Yeah.
old newscasters that were that we know, just like, oh man,
Yeah. Yeah.
Honor Chino.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's a great movie. Yeah, it's actually really good. There's like the scene where they make contact for the first time, and then like you have all these people showing up there, like talk about cultures and subcultures. It's the scene where like the news media shows up, and then these like Jehovah's Witness people show up, and then
right,
these like psychedelic alien people show up, and then these like neo-Nazis show up, and it's just like so weird. It's just this like really bizarre, eclectic cross section of like American subcultures. and they
Right.
just have this like few minute scene where it's just showing like all the crazy people and how they're trying to like use the alien contact to kind of fuel their own ideology.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we recently asked my dad, just like, well, what would the religion do, if they
That's such a
for his
good question.
contact?
I
Like,
love that.
what would you guys do? And he's like, well,
Right.
didn't think about it for very long. It was just like, well, we'd call him like the devil, an
Whoa,
entity of
holy shit,
yeah,
really?
an entity of Satan, because there's no other way to
Why?
explain it. And it's not in the Bible, they're not in the Bible, Jesus, whatever. It's not in the grand plan of paradise on earth.
Damn.
And me and Dion are like,
What
yeah,
the
you
hell?
can't be going around calling the aliens devils, man. You're gonna start a war. What's wrong with
Yeah,
you
for
guys?
real. What the hell,
And it's
man?
true. I'm sure most Christian sects would follow, in their steed.
Who knows? Who knows? Yeah, like I
Freaking
guess so. Because I mean, that's the thing. If you're that dedicated to an
speciesism.
ideology,
Yeah.
you're gonna anything that challenges that ideology, you're gonna literally demonize it, right? I mean,
Right.
that's what's happening there.
Yeah.
Wow.
And this is how galactic warfare begins.
Yeah.
Which is why they may not have made contact with us yet either. Just like, man, these ants are crazy with their ideology. Like, if we say what's up to them, they're going to start blasting nukes off at us and blow themselves up.
So interesting. Bro, and that goes back to that book, The Denial of Death. The I did a Becoming Human episode on that one. But
Yeah.
denial of
Yeah.
death, where we're so scared of death and abyss and emptiness that we find ideologies and institutions to latch onto. So
Right.
then when those ideologies and institutions get challenged, we see it not just as a challenge to that institution, but as a challenge to our own mortality, right?
Right. Right.
Legacy project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So intense. So then aliens, man, the aliens even fit into that. So even if the aliens came down and were like, hey, this is what's really going on, we've actually been researching like technology and life and universe and existence, philosophy, whatever, for 8 billion years. And we
Right.
just want to share this knowledge with you guys. Like we'd get pissed. We'd be like, I don't want to hear that. Get the fuck
Right.
out of
Like,
here.
what, dude? There better be a guy named Jesus Christ in that.
Yeah. Oh man.
Or like, even with, like we were saying with Prometheus, even science, just like,
Yeah.
don't tell us that physics isn't a thing because you have this
Yeah.
weird element
Totally.
that's
Yeah.
not on our chart,
Right.
and like,
The religion of science. Yeah.
yeah, there may be scientists that freak out too, just like we need to kill them because they're essentially challenging, everything that we think we know.
Yeah. And it's just about like ego-driven individuals too, where it's you know,
And then,
like I feel intimidated by it. It's not, I'm not even thinking about like society as a whole or history. Like I feel scared, so I'm gonna react and
and then
declare
let's think
war.
about it in terms of like chimp empire. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's say that they're watching us. There's some aliens that are here, whatever, filming a documentary, Human Empire. Well, they may be smarter than us. We may be smarter than chimps, and we could kill them all if we wanted to, right? If
Yeah.
there is a will and a way and enough people. But the people that filmed this Chimp Empire documentary, they were in constant danger of getting killed by the chimps. Because the chimps are way stronger than a human being of a cracked their skull. There's this one
Yeah.
outtake where they have to stay far enough from, and it took a minute for them to get into the pack. Where one of the camera guys was just like 1 foot over the line of their boundary.
Yeah.
And freaking one of the chimps walked past him, grabs his feet, and starts dragging him like a rag doll, just like into the woods, and then lets him go and walks away.
Oh
And it
shit.
was just like, this was just a little friendly reminder that they could kill us. So he could have killed
Yeah.
all of us if he wanted. So keep you at the boundary.
Fucking
The
crazy.
guy just like falls flat. He's like getting dragged in the
So
trees.
wild.
But that could be us too, where,
Yeah.
yeah, sure, the aliens could kill us all, but they are living on 8 different planets and they have politics and shit. None
Yeah, yeah.
of them are out here on Earth and freaking the Milky Way, like filming a documentary,
Oh, I
right?
see. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So
Yeah.
the documentary ends, they're in some shitty spaceship and like,
Yeah.
they're over here filming us. And if they do get discovered and break the boundary, well, we could kill them because we still have primitive freaking weapons that are
Right.
much stronger than they are
Yeah, we're just these like
currently
cagey
equipped.
motherfuckers. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like the aliens come down and then we're just like, bro, this is the fucking hood. Like, get out. Like,
right. It's
just
like we're
fucking, I'll
like
give you a warning shot, but that's it.
warning
Like,
shot, right? We shot like one rocket at you, but don't make us
yeah,
shoot a nuke at your shitty little spaceship because we'll kill all of you.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You never know.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Bro, and thinking about, man, that chimp thing really got me too, because it's like, one, the intelligence that demonstrates, right? That the chimp
Right.
was, had the intelligence to give a warning shot, essentially. I mean, that
Yeah.
requires thought, right? To be like, listen, I don't want to hurt you, but I don't want you in here. Get
Right.
out, right? Like that takes a level of yeah, just communication skills, essentially, right?
Right. Right.
I mean, that's fascinating. And then imagine if they chose to drag that guy deeper into the forest
Right.
and then just he got fucking dragged into the chimp empire and they all, oh my God.
Right. Then
Like that's another world, right? That's a whole
alien,
other
right?
world.
Xenobob, our
Yeah.
friend freaking on our journey out here, our cameraman got drug into the freaking human empire and murdered, just like, oh,
Xenobob.
yeah, but that we crossed the line. Somebody help me.
Oh man. But hey, that was in that movie. I forget the name, but you recommended it, the Brazilian one. There's like a
Oh,
crime
right,
thing
right,
in
right.
Brazil.
Yeah,
Yeah, but the story that those girls told was that the alien like, was hurt or something, and
right,
then these like 3 12-year-old girls found him, and then the alien just looked like scared and was just like, oh shit, like I'm on their territory now and I'm
right.
injured and don't know what to do,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what resources you have in that moment or your technology,
Yeah. Yeah.
If you don't have any of it with you, then you're in the chimp empire. You're fucked.
Yeah, you're in the chimp empire.
Yeah, exactly. And take you to freaking Area 51 and cut you open, just like these chimps are crazy.
Right.
And here's one thing that you wouldn't do is walk up to the chimps and be like, greetings.
Right,
My
right,
name
right.
is Jare.
Yeah.
I wanted to teach you about the paradise Earth coming up.
Yeah.
Let me teach you about physics or chemistry. They'd rip your face off,
Yeah. Yeah.
And likewise, would aliens just come up to us and be like, "Hey, it's me, Xenobob. Like, let me teach
Yeah.
you about these crystals." Probably not, because we'd probably murder them.
Well, yeah, and that's one theory, right, about the UFO sightings is like how come they're not just revealing themselves, It's
Right,
maybe that's why, right? Maybe they're hanging out, observing us, waiting for us to, have that level of intelligence and communication that they can just come talk to us about physics or whatever,
right,
or, whatever it is. Because with the chimps too, it's like, I could see a similar thing with the chimp empire where it's like, okay, we're going to hang out on the periphery and watch as this species evolves. And once it's evolved enough, then maybe we'll start trying to have a conversation about physics. But right
right,
now, they're just going to rip my face off. But I'm still curious. So I'm just going to observe from a distance.
right, right, right.
Yeah, it could be the same thought process.
And maybe, possibly, you get a human to communicate with you, but again, you'd have to essentially put it in a zoo first.
Right.
And just like put it in a habitat, and then slowly, like, Julie the alien comes in, it's like, everything's okay, boys.
Yeah.
Ah, get me out of here. And then
But yeah.
eventually they'll start teaching us how to like put rings over a saucer or whatever they teach chimps to do,
Yeah, right, exactly.
bananas or whatever. You know,
Or like gorillas
theoretically
who te
speaking.
who learn sign language.
Right, right, right.
Isn't that fucking crazy that there's
Wild.
gorillas that can like speak sign language?
Right, right. we sending those chimps to the moon, man. Astronauts. But seriously, Simon, but do the aliens talk like this about us? Just like, man, we taught these guys, this one chimp human being in Egypt, we taught him how to build the pyramids, like, and they did it, man. They actually did it. Now they have architecture.
Right.
Because
Yeah. Who's
a lot
giving
of
us the
those, like,
knowledge?
yeah, unknown stuff. I was watching this thing on YouTube about like the unknown, board, and there's this temple. There's multiple Buddhist temples, right, throughout Asia that they don't know who built them.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy. Yeah.
Just like we don't know how, when, or like what the fuck, but they're here and they're
Yeah.
like they're wild. They're like some alien architecture shit. And just
Yeah.
like there's no reason why this should be here and be this old.
Yeah.
Which then goes into that cool theory of how many societies have actually lived
Exactly. Yeah.
and flourished throughout time, and then natural disaster or civilization disaster, and boom, all traces are gone, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been listening to it's called History on Fire. With
Okay.
this, yeah,
Yeah. With what's
Daniele Bolelli, the
yeah,
Italian
yeah, yeah.
guy. It's really good. He's a great storyteller. And one thing that he brings up is that like he tries to get away from having like a teleological view of human society, that we're on this like trajectory of constant progress. He
Right,
goes like, just because a society is complex doesn't really mean anything. It's just because a society is like technologically advanced and complex, that's all it means. That's
right,
okay. It doesn't mean that it's better or morally better or ethically better or conducive to more happiness or anything like
right,
that. It
right.
just means complexity just means complexity. That's it.
Sure.
And I like that idea because how do we define like the richness of a human society? I mean, there could have been so many societies that were quite rich, in terms of happiness, joy, comfort, all of that stuff. Or
Right.
even like, okay, this is a present day example, but there's an interview with the Dalai Lama, and the interviewer asked him, so how do you, Dalai Lama, and the Tibetans deal with negative self-image? Do you have like is your Buddhist practice deal with that or whatever? And the Dalai Lama is like, what are you talking about? And the interviewer, who's this like Western guy, goes, negative self-image, like you kind of hate yourself. How do you deal with that?
Yeah.
And the Dalai Lama is just like, we don't, like, we don't feel that. Like, what do you mean? That's like, we don't have that. Like Tibetans we don't hate ourselves. It's just not part of the culture. So
Right.
it's not something that we need to overcome,
Mm,
you
interesting.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so apparent. So when you think of that kind of like self-loathing, anxiety, all that shit that is, pretty common, it just seems like something that's endemic to the human experience, at least in our part of the world and society. It turns out that no, that's actually something that doesn't have to be happening. And then it's okay, well, what's that society doing different from our society, that they're just kind of raised with this sense of like, I'm pretty okay with myself,
Right. Right.
you know?
Well, I've realized too, just like hanging out with some friends and stuff like that, that anxiety is really taught, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Little
Yeah.
kids shouldn't be worried about like too many people at a place, or
Bro,
that, you
exactly.
know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like
Uh-huh.
that all comes from the parent, in which then they learn the behavior and then exhibit it and actually feel it. It's like
Exactly.
empathetic, weird transference.
Yeah, that's totally correct. Yeah.
Whereas when you're raised to sort of, in a different way, raised from somebody that doesn't worry about those, well, you don't worry about them. Again, the nurture and the nature thing.
Right,
So,
right.
and then like we were saying a few weeks ago, with like it's a generational thing to always be acknowledging self-doubt and imposter syndrome and depression and anxiety and stuff like that. Whereas in the 50s, John Wayne, whatever, and them,
Right.
not necessarily even in Rome, so this is Sparta. In Sparta, they probably weren't, taking surveys about men's mental health.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah,
Right. Yeah. And that goes back to the thing too, where it's like, some societies are wonderful and some just aren't. It's like
right.
Sparta doesn't sound like a nice place.
Now, sounds 1950s America, not so good.
Yeah, right.
What are you talking about, partner? I've never been depressed in my life. Um, and also the Dalai Lama could be full of shit too. What are your thoughts on him, especially being such a controversial character, like kissing that little boy the other day, telling him to suck his tongue and stuff like that, and
No,
just
I didn't know about that. Jeez.
really,
Yeah.
it was actually a pretty big thing. It was like in the
Like
national
recently?
news. Yeah, yeah, like
Oh
last
no.
month.
Yeah.
Yeah, just YouTube it. You'll see it. Just people on podcasts making fun of it, and just like it.
Oh
Yeah,
God.
it's pretty horrifying.
Yeah, that's awful.
Suck my tongue, and just like I don't know. It's just weird. These like the Pope, or
Yeah, sure.
elders, or
Yeah,
people. Yeah, it's just these really exalted like spiritual positions.
definitely. Yeah.
You got to be back to an earlier conversation with famous people. I've always thought you got to be like the most nuttiest people in the world are those that like run or start religions.
Oh
That's
yeah, fucking
freaking
bad
wild.
shit, dude.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Or people that like run for president.
Oh yeah, that's gotta be insane. Bro,
Yeah.
like in the History on Fire thing, I'm listening to this one about the Aztecs and the conquistadors coming over, right?
Okay.
So Cortez, like he gets into Daniele Bolelli gets into like Cortez's personality a bit and sort of like personal history before he heads over to South America. Dude was a fucking psychopath.
Really?
Yeah, like just like he had to have been a sociopath because he's like lying, it's deceitful, like the dude's just fucking insane, like raping women, like crazy shit, like just a fucked up, really fucked up human being who then somehow gets a private ship because apparently it was a private endeavor, just like some rich dude, wanted to fund a trip to South America because he was like, oh, cool, maybe there's some gold there and I can, expand my riches. So it actually wasn't like a publicly funded thing or like a government endeavor. It was just some fucking corporate dude.
Right.
That's what we're doing with Mars right now. Imagine if people were on Mars, SpaceX going to Mars. Like, so this dude was just
So
like,
he
oh,
is like the Elon Musk back then, just like,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. So this corporate Spanish guy was just like, oh, tight, like the new world. Yeah, let's go. So he wants to hire someone to captain his ship. Comes across Cortez, is like, this dude's fucking crazy. Okay, yeah, I'll hire Cortez. But then he realizes how crazy Cortez is, and then Cortez like did something, like tried to fuck his daughter or something crazy, right? So then the this like CEO type guy, he goes, you know what? Never mind. We're breaking the deal. We're not doing this. You're not taking my ship, right? So then Cortez fucking sprints down to the harbor, gets on the ship, gets all his men, and just fucking sails off. And it's just like, fuck you, I'm going. We already signed the papers, right?
Classic
So
Cortez.
yeah, so he hops on the ship. So this mission should not have even happened, right? Talk about history and chance, right? This mission, by all means, should not have happened, but Cortez was a sociopath. Hops on this ship, sails across to South America, and just starts fucking conquering people, killing people, raping people. No one told him to do it.
Just like, wow.
Yeah.
Man, that's like a Jeffrey Dahmer shit
Yeah,
too.
no, he was like, yeah, I mean, actually, like if Cortez was born in 20th or 21st century society, he would have just ended up being a serial killer.
Right. What's crazy though is maybe he would have uh never have been really like, the Jeff Bezos if Jeff Bezos was a serial killer. Well, like how many like rich people have gotten away with stuff?
Oh God, who knows? Yeah.
The Epstein shit and stuff like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
because they were rich as Cortez and as crazy
Yeah.
and were willing to lie and manipulate and
Yeah.
to break the law and bend the law. You know what happens all the time. Listen, man, you're a cop, you're making freaking 60 grand a year, you're risking your life working 8 days a week, you see Bezos like do some sketchy shit, I don't know what it may be, some Cortez shit.
Right.
Guy offers you like couple briefcases filled with cash, $500,000 or something like that.
Right.
$1 million. What's
Yeah.
$1 million to him? He wouldn't give a crap. And $1 million to some dude that has no morals, anyways, a freaking cop. Of course, he's gonna take that money.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it happens. I think it happens more often than we think. Modern day Cortezes.
Yeah, but also what is Jeff Bezos doing that he's just like down on the corner, like with like a street patrol cop, Like
Oh hell yes! That's true. That's true. Bezos bad example, but yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Um. Um. Wow, that's wild. Um. And again, by chance, like he could never have took that boat. All this crazy history could have possibly have never have went down.
Right.
What if he would have like accidentally got hit by a horse chariot or something on his way to the boat?
Dude, exactly. Exactly.
The
Yeah.
history of freaking the Americas would be completely rewritten
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
some other psychopath who is willing to do that, like the freaking settlers.
Seriously, because think about it. Okay, let's say they start colonizing Mars, right? Different situation because there's no beings there as far as we know.
Right,
Um, so it's essentially just like desert country, right? It's just like the red planet, like weird outback planet. I
right,
mean, Total Recall, just like all these people out
right.
there, like, going to colonize just this like
Totally.
barren, shitty place, rebirth from the desert, all that.
Right,
So, what kind of person would go to Mars, would go colonize Mars, right?
right.
Someone who's either a complete psychopath or someone who's desperate,
Yeah,
deeply, deeply desperate. It's the same type of person who would have came from Europe to the Americas, right? Like someone who, once like settlers started coming and stuff in larger droves, like who was coming over? It was people who were in huge amounts of debt and trying to escape that. It was people who were just like religious fanatics
right.
and felt excluded from mainstream society. It would be just weird ass people, like not people you'd want to hang out with.
And then there's even certain points in time in history too where a lot of the whole culture society was some flat earthers essentially, and just like you're gonna sail to some wild freaking edge of the world and
Yeah.
meet like flying dragon monsters and like maybe fall over the side. We don't really know, but it's not gonna be good, man. And still getting on the boat and being like,
Yeah.
fuck it, let's go.
Yeah, yeah.
And then finding freaking
Like human beings are insane, bro. And then I was even thinking, okay, land bridge theory, that's bunk apparently. I mean, it did happen, people crossed the land bridge up north, but apparently people before that were also coming across the Pacific Ocean. Why?
yeah,
Who were those people and what were they doing? Were they absolutely desperate? Were they refugees? Were they fleeing war? Were they because who would get on a fucking canoe unless maybe, who knows, maybe they had very advanced ships at that time and we just lost evidence of that. Who knows? But
right,
I'm going to assume for the sake of this argument, who gets on a fucking canoe and tries to go across the entire Pacific Ocean?
right,
That's insane. And actually, they probably wouldn't have even known that there was another side to the Pacific Ocean,
right.
right?
Exactly.
These were people who were desperate
Yeah. Or just like
or adventurous.
adventurous psychosis. There's even people that still to this day will take a canoe to freaking Europe, from
That's true.
America. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah,
Why?
it's like why?
Like there was this, speaking of Rogan, there's this one girl on there that did that, and she's just talking about, oh well, just like so many beautiful nights, like the whales would come out and like fish would come say hi to me.
Yeah.
You're all alone in the ocean. So well, it's so scary. And
Or
then
like
of course would be like the nights of rapids and stuff like that, just like rolling around in your freaking canoe. Wild.
great, going through a storm. Or what about like oh man, I just lost my train of thought. Oh, lost it. It's gone.
Freaking canoeing across the pond.
Canoeing across. Oh yeah, yeah. What's his name? The rock climber who
Okay, yeah, yeah.
he free soloed El
Free solo.
Capitan in Yosemite. He like
Yeah.
yeah, where it's like not just him, but all these like free solo guys where it's just like, what are you doing? Why are you doing
Right,
it?
right. Alex something, right?
Yeah, Alex Hamold, I think.
Alex Hamill or something. They did studies on his brain and they said that he was didn't there was something wrong with his chemicals or like his frontal lobe or
Yeah,
something where
right.
he wouldn't like process fear.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So was it like that person who was like coming
And
across
that could have been
yeah,
freaking Cortez,
yeah,
clearly
yeah,
some crazy mental thing where you're not afraid and you have a wild lust for some weird shit. And like,
yeah.
you just want to
Fucked
get
up
jump
dude.
hop on a boat and go like kill a bunch of alien people
Right.
and like take their blankets. Like,
Yeah.
what, dude? Go watch a movie or something. Freaking go fishing. It's such a
Bro,
bad
see,
plan. Make some wine.
see, I like listening to history or learning about history too, because it puts things in perspective where it's like, okay, man, if fucking like Cortez lived, people like Cortez did that stuff, it kind of opens the realm of possibility for me where it's like, well, anything I'm doing is relatively very, very tame
That is true.
and isn't actually harming anyone. So I mean, it gives me a sense of my own freedom where it's like, damn, dude, if that guy stole a boat and went over to South America and just started killing people, it's
I could do
like
anything.
I can quit my job and be an
The
artist. That's not
possibilities
like
are endless.
that's
But
cool,
yeah,
you know?
right.
Like
Exactly.
I don't know, it's a sense of freedom or like the plague, right? Like I love learning about the plague era because it's just so fucked up and it's like the plague happened.
Right.
That's insane. That's the most fucked up. Imagine going through the plague and it's like that happens. So, you know what? I can kind of live however I want to live and and as long as I'm not killing people or whatever, like it's gonna be all right, you know?
And if you were to ask somebody from the plague, they'd be so like jealous of our lives, just
Oh
like,
yeah,
wow,
seriously.
there's no disease really. And like, that's awesome. Nobody's like puking green, freaking breastfeeding kids in the freaking streets. Wow, cool.
Right, right. Wow, cool.
The freaking Timotheus Jebediah didn't throw his shit out his window this morning. That's awesome.
But I think that's what I'm trying like I'm trying to approach my life, you know, because I like learning history because it's like it gives me new perspective on my life, right? So it's like that's actually okay, quick sidebar. Like that's one of my if I were an English literature teacher again, one thing I would shift is making a focus on like why does this work? Why does this literature that we're reading matter for your personal life? Why does reading Derrida or whoever, doesn't matter who, how does this apply to how you are leading your life, you know, in an
Right.
ethical way, that sort of thing, rather than it being just sort of some like abstract bit of knowledge in the same
Right.
way that
Right.
like math theory is or something like that. You know what
Yeah.
I
Some sort of mass concept, just like, well, this is about politics or this is
Yeah, just
about
like this is
race or
about your life,
gender.
you know? Like what
Yeah.
does this poem mean in the context of your life and what can you do with it to wake yourself up
All
to
right.
that sort
Let
of thing.
me best way to practice pedagogy is through doing your own prompts.
Yeah. Oh,
How
cool.
would you relate to your own life, either deliverance or Prometheus? Ding, 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 ding.
Fucking deliberate. Or what was the other one where you can
Or
say that?
Prometheus, whichever one would be easier in the moment.
All right. Okay, my mind's going fast because I'm like getting psyched on ideas. So let me hop back to the history thing, then I'll hop back to
All right, all right,
deliverance.
all right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, so okay, like I want to live my life kind of like the person who like just time traveled from the plague era, you know?
right,
And is like, wow, there's no plague. That's so wonderful.
right,
Now that there's no plague, what cool, beautiful things can I do with my life?
right,
You know, or the person who's, whatever, any kind of like extreme situation, right?
right.
I guess I'm just talking about like gratitude or something.
Sure.
Um,
Even like thinking there's a lot of people that get like false terminally ill diagnoses.
right, right.
And then when they find out they're going to live again, they're like completely change their lives. Like
Yeah,
break up
exactly.
with the wife that's been cheating on them for 10 years,
Yeah,
get a job out of state, whatever it is,
right, right.
change. So,
Yeah. But as far as deliverance goes, I'll go with that one. How do I apply deliverance to my own life? I don't know. Don't go rafting down a river when I don't know how.
oh man, that's a cop out. I'd be like, Jared, we can try a little harder today.
Okay, all right. What resonated from Deliverance was, and keeping it applied to my own life, because there's so much to say about that movie, but
Right, right.
but within my own life, I really like all the scenes of oh God, what was the character's name? Lewis,
Lewis, yeah.
Burt Reynolds' character.
Yeah, Lewis.
He's the seeker, right? He's the one going out into the woods and saying, there
Yeah,
must be more to this life, right? There must be
right.
something else going on. And then he gets injured, right? He has
Yeah,
that what is that called? A compound fracture when your bone is sticking out?
right, right.
Yeah, his bone sticking out of his thigh, and and
Yeah,
then uh, and then the other character has to climb up the cliff, right? Very like life or death situation. And
right,
then Lewis looks at him and is just like, now it's your turn to play the game.
right, right.
Which is insane. That's really insane. But I also kind of like that approach to life, right? Where it's like we're playing the game. The intensity is part of the game. Like you're in it, playing it. I mean,
Yes,
take
yes.
in it. What are you finding? What's there?
Right,
That sort of just like um the ability that character has to just like to seek and seek in a very fundamental way, get
right, right.
closer to life, right? It's very Henry David Thoreau, right? Like suck the marrow from the bone of life, that sort of
Yes,
thing.
yes, exactly.
Get closer to life. Like I think that's what I learned from that movie. Well, I learned a lot from that movie, but but that's one of
For
them,
sure.
what
No, I
movie
like that. I like that.
is
That would definitely be good for the discussion board
that?
right there. I could reply to that one.
Oh man, that's so funny.
I think I feel a similar way too. Like, man, I wish I knew what John Voight's character was, but his name. But yeah, I think it's being able to identify yourself and be confident with it when you're in a small group setting.
Oh,
And I
interesting.
think that Lewis really shows, like, his identification and is proud of it, and
Yeah.
then it thus becomes like a leader within the group there for a while because he's willing to voice his opinion, take initiative,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
go on that adventure. And then when he breaks his leg, I also then relate to Voight, who is sort of the quiet guy throughout the journey,
Right.
the right hand man, who's then takes over the plane, so to speak, go from co-pilot to pilot, and starts playing the game. He takes over as quarterback and
Yeah.
saves all of them essentially,
Right.
despite all odds. But he had to then, because he wasn't necessarily fully being himself the whole film until that moment.
Right.
And it's Lewis who shows him through this, what unfortunately has to be a traumatic event to bring him to his own individuality, which happens to be a hero. So I think
Right.
it's important to always remember who you are, even in a group.
Oh, I like that. I like
Yeah.
that. Hey, here's a interesting question. So, Okay, so when we dream, our memory stores dreams the same way it stores real life events,
Yeah.
right? So, okay, let's say I have a dream where I don't know, and this is like people can practice skills in their dreams, which is insane, if you get good at
Sure.
lucid dreaming, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go into your dream every night and sit there practicing guitar in your dream for 8 hours, and then the next morning play and you know
Right.
remember what you learned in your dream. It's ridiculous.
Which is like one explanation for the like uh possessed phenomenon where people can speak in other languages too.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
practicing it from like watching TV or like hearing it out and about, and then you dream about it. And in your
Right.
dream, you're freaking having Spanish class, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So so okay, so in that dream space, you can also process emotional stuff, all that sort of thing, right?
Yeah,
Okay, so you do some healing in your dream, and then it turns out that that transfers over to your waking day-to-day life,
right.
which is so cool that the mind and the subconscious works that way.
Yeah.
Now, can that work through the medium of film? Art more generally, but through the medium of film, can I sit there and maybe through in a space of like very, if I'm just very open and receptive to the images I am receiving from the film, can I receive those images in the same way I receive images from a dream? And then
But
and
then do
then
you process
integrate
them
them
as
into
like
my
a
own dream.
memory,
Exactly. Yeah.
as if it actually happened?
Yeah. So can I watch, whatever, Deliverance and
That is
bad example. But can I watch images? I mean, this would be a cool like experiment to do, to just sort of like blast images of like I don't know, just like having a child or something, right? I'm not a father. I don't have any children, but if I sat there for 16 hours a day watching film clips of like interactions with a child, would I start to absorb those things as my own
weird.
memories, and then
And
and
then
then kind of
start
have
like
memories of love for a child or something like that?
weird. And then
Yeah.
start like missing that child and shit like
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
too.
exactly. Would my
Um,
body and brain process it as a real event?
there's this really good um show where God, I can't remember. It's either a show or a movie. Essentially, the character finds out that all his memories of his kid were implanted.
Oh, that was
You know which one I'm talking
I
about?
do. Yeah, because we talked
Yeah.
about it once. Is it the one where the opening scene is him like swimming in the water, and then the kid gets stolen, but then it turns out the kid wasn't even real or something?
No,
Is it?
no, I think you might, that one you're thinking of, is it? I think you
I
might
don't
be
know,
thinking of
man.
Minority Report.
Yeah, I'm thinking of Report. Yeah.
Is that the twist in that? Shit, I need to like rewatch that movie.
Yeah,
I
right.
love
Wasn't the
that
whole
movie.
thing like that he was actually like the cop the whole time, or I don't know, man. There's some like weird Philip K. Dick shit
Yeah,
going
there's a
on.
twist. That's a good movie, actually.
Yeah, it is. That's a really good one.
But yeah, that's essentially the argument though is implementing a false memory, you know.
Oh, Total Recall.
Is it Total Recall? Oh, do you know which one I'm thinking of is Moon. Have you ever seen Moon? And of course Total Recall and Minority Report have, you know,
Elements of that, yeah.
elements of that, but Moon, there's this movie Moon. It's awesome. Freaking I think like David Bowie's son directed it.
What?
But this guy, it follows this guy and a robot who live on the moon, and he's a mining worker, and he
Yeah.
just like lives by himself, and he watches videos of his kid all the time, and like his wife and stuff. And he's like, can't wait for his mission to be over so he could go home, you know. But it turns
Yeah.
out that all in all, turns out at the end of the day, he's part of lots of clones, and he dies every 2 years, and he never goes home.
Oh shit.
So the robot freaking, lays it out for him that just like, I'm really sorry, but your memories of your daughter these are fake. These aren't even real memories. They're just like implanted into all of you.
Yeah.
And dude, just like freaking losing it. But he realizes that it really is his kid later, but it's she's all old now. She's like, an old person on earth, and his wife is dead and stuff like that, because
Yeah.
he thinks he's still that age. But you know who knows how many years have passed and how many clones.
Right.
And his thing is to like bust up this whole shit and get back to earth. So it's a wild movie. It's a
That's
wild
cool. That's
movie. But
cool.
again, back to that like fake implementation of
Yeah.
images. But well, man, it goes to show that a lot of people, back to language, learn English and stuff just from watching movies.
Right. Right. Yeah. That's
Like
how
literally.
Schwarzenegger learned English.
Yeah, exactly. Um, one last little story here that I wanted to mention, a movie and like a book I was reading,
Yeah.
back to like unleashing some sort of like, either like, of course, in the Christian like theme of it all is the demon, right? But like maybe it's just one of these like Cortez individuals, and like these horrible things that happened in history, right? So they say that the Catholics, they within their history books, when the Spanish Inquisition happened, Queen Isabella had to be convinced by one of the priests to go to war, right? To start the Spanish Inquisition. And it was terrible. They freaking murdered so many people. It was, they say, like the darkest moments in the church's history, right?
Yeah.
So there's documentation that it was the Pope's chief exorcist that convinced Isabella to go to war. And so the record shows that he went on an exorcism in this castle, manor, with a bunch of priests, and they weren't able to expel the demon. So they caged up the demon, and there's like this, they're showing pictures of like this wild freaking like seance thing in this castle, that these priests
Yeah.
did back in the day. But apparently, according to the records, the demon was not expelled from the kid. It left the kid and went into the chief
Oh shit.
exorcist at the time, who
Yeah.
then convinced Isabella to start the Inquisition.
What?
And they didn't find out about this until they found his diary like hundred years later in this crazy tomb, because they closed up that manor in that tomb. They're like, this is the
Holy
place of
shit.
evil, right?
Yeah.
So they find in the dead freaking skeleton the Pope's chief exorcist, his diary, and it says the demon has come into me now, and he's freaking out, and he tries to kill himself, apparently, according to the record, and the demon doesn't allow it. And
Oh
now the
man.
priest put it together that 10 years later, it's him who convinces Isabella to go to the Inquisition. Wild,
Wow.
huh?
Yeah. And this is all like historical records. Like people are like recording
Yeah, I mean,
things
this,
are, like fucking crazy.
it's Catholic history, so it's not
Sure.
necessarily like based on fact per se, but they're these are books that they found and written, chamber they found and shit, and all the dates match up to like, oh my god, we were freaking infiltrated, and like so many people died X, Y, and Z for this long, and still, and now they're trying to figure out, when did this, demon freaking leave?
Yeah. Hey, that could be like a revisionist sort of thing though, right?
Right.
If like,
Oh, yeah, for
some
sure.
right, some people years later were like trying to I don't know, man.
justify, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just like, oh, it wasn't us. It was the demons that took over.
It was actually Agamemnon. Guy,
Yeah, right,
crazy
right.
demon. He had like green hair as well. Um, no, totally. And it's something the church would make up too, to, you know, cover up their institutional and a bit,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
when they terrible causing a war.
Hey, who knows though? Who
But
knows?
who knows though,
Yeah.
you never really know. But what one thing is for sure is somebody who becomes, I don't care what time period it is, joins a church, a mega church, and then elevates to a position of the Pope's chief exorcist. You got to be freaking wild. You got to be nutsos.
Yeah.
That dude was probably like Cortez,
Yeah.
convincing Queen Isabella to freaking start the Inquisition. You know, guy was Dahmer.
Yeah. Yeah. Man. Bro, speaking of mega churches, at the conference, I met this guy who was he was in one of those like Southern mega church things, right?
Okay.
And then he was a preacher and he told me he had been preaching to like 10,000 people,
Right.
like giant auditoriums, crazy. So he's working his way up the mega church institutional ladder and then starts to get into the he starts to see like the business side of it, right? And then he
Right.
starts to see how much money is really going into it, how much money the people at the top are really making and all this.
Yeah.
And then it sounds like he's a decent guy because then he, as much as he was infatuated by the, attention and the minor fame that he was getting and all of that, he actually ends up leaving because he was like, this isn't right, this isn't just.
Okay.
Um, and then goes on his own path, finds all this other stuff, and then he's in the psychedelic conference in 2023. But he's actually the second person that I've met. The first one, I don't want to name him because it sounded like a secret thing, but when we were hanging out at Dion's place. I don't know. I just don't know how he feel about like saying his name on a podcast or whatever. So I just want to like respect that. Because when he told me the story, it seemed kind of like hush hush,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, he had worked. So funny, dude. But this dude also was part of like,
Call him
like
Todd.
Southern, yeah, Todd was also part of this like Southern Baptist church and
Yeah.
then started making his way to the top and doing finances for people at the top and stuff like that. And then left because he was like, oh shit. So two people I've met, which is kind of weird, to meet anyone who's like went that deep into, Christian fundamentalism and worked their way to the top. But
Right. Right.
but those are two individuals I've personally met who were like, yeah, these are not okay institutions. And once I started to get into the inner sanctum of these institutions, then
Right.
I left,
The deeper you get, the worse
you
it
know?
gets. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's scary. That's weird.
And that's one reason I left I say a lot that my childhood religion is like I learned too much. I read shit
Yeah,
that people
yeah.
don't read and just like, holy crap, this is wackadoo,
Right, right.
really out there. Like when I got into like researching the like, practices and history of Scientology, that shit's wild.
Yeah,
Like their current leader, there's people that really worked up to get up high and like near him. Guy is crazy. Like has
yeah.
people like watch his wife, like they interview her every day, like connect her to machines. Like I told you about that story where these people needed to get disciplined. I can't remember what they call it. Get clear, right? Going clear.
Oh God,
Need
yeah.
to be cleared. So they go to a clearinghouse and they're all, they're like starving and like getting beat every day to clean and stuff like that. And freaking in comes the head of Scientology and busts out a bunch of chairs and tells them to start doing musical chairs. And he's like, whoever wins gets to stay in the church. So boom, they start doing musical chairs to some creepy ass music.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, these people are like almost killing each other to
Whoa.
stay
Yeah.
to win musical chairs so they could stay in the thing, beating each other up, tearing at each other's hair, freaking
Holy shit.
whatever, freaking finally ends, right? People knocked out and shit. And he's like, all right, I guess you can all stay if you like one final test. Beats the shit out of all of them. Like beats the freaking crap. And then so the freaking cops get wind of this house, right?
Yeah.
From some other member, that went rogue. So the cops come to the house. Sure enough, people all fucked up. None of them want to go with the cops. All of them are telling the cops, get the fuck out of here. Everything's fine.
Whoa.
Like,
Yeah.
we're not pressing charges on shit. You could go to, and boom, just wild, man. Wild. Cortez.
Crazy. Cortez.
And those
Oh,
mega
man.
churches, it's just like the corruption here's the most fascinating thing to me about Christianity. How could your leader tell you not to have an organized religion, but yet that's what they all do? It doesn't even make sense. The only way through God is through him.
Wait, what are you talking about? Like the
So in the Bible, Jesus talks about organized religions blatantly.
yeah.
Organized organizations of Satan in the world,
Yeah.
and that it's all about money, blah blah blah. The only way to God, Jehovah, is through me, Jesus Christ. You pray to me,
Yeah.
and
Cool. Yeah.
I'll let him know.
Yeah.
And you don't give money to churches, don't
Right.
give money
Yeah.
to the temples, don't because organized religion is a
Yeah.
gateway to the devil.
Yeah.
But yet, that's what all freaking 90% of
Yeah.
Christians are in
Bro,
America.
this happens over and over again. It's
It's no
literally
sense.
ridiculous. Like that happens in Buddhism too, where the Buddha, like, he's gonna die, he's on his way out, and he goes, "Hey, by the way, don't make any statues of me, don't worship me, don't turn this into like a religion. It's a practice, and that's good. Keep doing what I've taught you,
Right.
but don't deify me." And then
Ideology, yeah.
yeah, and then what do? They all go deify him,
Or idolatry, should I say.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or Saint Francis, same thing. Saint Francis, I mean, of course he was Catholic, but um on his way out when he was dying, he goes same thing. Don't build any churches to commemorate me. If you want to commemorate me, give your money to the poor.
Right. But
Don't-
that's not what happened.
And then he dies, and then they build a giant cathedral for him, you know?
Right. Even look at like, the J Dubs. They're when we were kids, they're like, don't ever do televangelism,
Yeah.
the rock bands. We're no part of this world. Sort of hippies, just
Yeah, yeah.
now they're just finished building something which the members call like Hollywood. They're making
Yeah.
movies like Sean Penn's Kid, just like, come
Yeah.
on, rock bands, from door to door. When I was a kid, like, you'd be disbanded,
Yeah, yeah.
it's wild. That's wild.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, and like, so all these actually awakened figures say that don't do it, don't do it, and then don't institutionalize, essentially. Just keep
Right.
finding spirit within yourself is essentially what they seem to be saying.
Yeah.
But then they keep doing it. They can't help themselves because people are, scared and power hungry and everything else. So then we just, you know, latch onto these institutions, make them bigger, and you know,
Right. But
or even in academia, right? I mean, you
oh,
have
especially in academia.
yeah, you have like all these guys, Emerson, Thoreau, Nietzsche, all these philosophers, writers, so many people who are like, do your own thing, It's like it's about living who you truly are. Don't subscribe to anything, and then what all these like philosophers do, they, exactly that.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was taught by all my panel not to be a gatekeeper, essentially, and
Yeah.
breaking rules and be outspoken and take your theories to where you want them to go, despite all odds. Blah blah blah. And then I start writing the dissertation. They're all gatekeepers, and that's
Yeah, yeah.
literally the point of writing a dissertation. Like,
Yeah.
you don't think a person that's done this for 15 years can write a short book. Of course, that's not the challenge. The challenge is to get through the gate,
Yeah.
to please all these people so you can get the keys to the kingdom, so to speak. But they ain't going to let you have it unless you abide by freaking institutional standard X, Y, and through Z.
And I feel like that's the thing. Just like, to what extent is any institution, because we do live in a world that has institutions, and you do have to like live and do things, and that's okay, but then just sort of like not being naive about it, right? Just realizing, yeah, the main motivation of every single institution is to just like deepen, strengthen, and reify itself.
Right.
It's not to educate you, it's not to strengthen you, it's not to teach you, it's not to liberate you or help you find spiritual meaning. That all comes secondary. The main point of the institution is to reproduce itself.
Right. It's a reinstitution of its own agenda, so to speak. And they try to say that like the individuals are the individual teachers who care. That's what makes a difference, maybe.
Yeah.
Or like the individuals who care in the religion, those are the ones who like, really make a difference, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, but you're reifying and establishing a larger evil, I don't know. I sort of want to just go become a carpenter again.
Like the good Lord himself.
Like the good Lord himself, Jesus Christ.
On behalf of the Jareds, thank you for listening. You can reach the show at jaredtojared@gmail.com. We will be back next week. And always remember, no journey is too great when one finds what he seeks. Take care.